Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa, and finally Helldivers are addressing the big major issues the game has. These are the technical problems. So in this video I'm going to show you a new update which just dropped about the state of the game, and specifically about the, well, one of the biggest technical issues, that is the install size of the game. But to begin with, I think we need to look at this, because this is the developers talking to the community, hilariously, not on Discord for a change. They've actually made a post on Reddit. And this was a couple of days ago, but they basically say this: we know many of you have been experiencing issues with performance drops, stability hiccups, freezes, and the annoying audio bugs. We've seen the feedback across Discord forums, Reddit, and our dashboards. You've been loud and clear and absolutely right to expect better. We also recognize that our recent updates haven't hit the mark, and our silence also hasn't helped. That's on us. We read all of it, and we are hard at work creating a roadmap to address this. Starting with the good news, there is an incoming update in mid-October-ish where we'll start chipping away at some key crash fixes. Fix the primary weapon sidearm audio that stops during a mission, minor performance improvements, long overdue bug fixes like charger footstep sounds, pretty useful, or weapon audio stopping mid-mission, no more landing on caves, and a balanced pass. We're unleashing Nicholas and Lennart. So they also go on to say this. I think it is important to cover this as well. For some of the bigger performance pieces, unfortunately, we can't wave a short turnaround magic wand, nor would a 60-day patch fix them fully. Rather, it would duct tape them where we need to solder. So we're working on a bigger development plan as to how we can address some of the large concerns. Short term, we think the above will make a noticeable improvement, and beyond that, we'll keep working on the top issues you keep raising. I mean, performance is a problem. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to say performance is great in the game. It isn't. Everybody knows performance is getting worse with this game. I mean, it's quite jarring to me jumping onto Helldivers and playing it, well, literally today, and the performance compared to some of the other games I've been playing recently, it's really shockingly bad. Like, I mean, it feels at times like you're moving around sort of in treacle. That's not great. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying this here. Obviously, there's a lot of different PC specifications as well. I'm not really including the consoles in this because, again, I don't play on console, so it's a bit difficult for me to sort of relate to that. But I do want you to let me know in the comments below if performance has been getting worse on your console of choice or even on your PC. Like I said, it is one of the major issues I've got. Really, should be able to play this game at a stupid, ludicrous FPS, and it should feel buttery smooth. But it doesn't, and one of the reasons for that is Arrowhead use an engine that is no longer supported. I think it was discontinued back in 2019, but Arrowhead have continued with it, and it's kind of, well, it must be one horrific mess of all this sort of legacy coding together, like a big nightmare. It must be terrible for them to work with it. So as they add new content, invariably it seems to add more performance issues into the game, but that doesn't detract from some of the major bug issues, things like landing on the caves, which was super annoying, audio disappearing, and all of that. Anyway, that's what they posted a couple of days ago. What I want to go into detail now is what they've made a post on, well, literally within the last couple of hours. So another shock here that this isn't on Discord. They've actually posted, well, it is actually on Discord as well, but they've posted this onto Steam, and they've done it kind of like they would do a patch notes update, which I think is pretty cool. And it's the Helldivers 2 tech blog #1. So I'm like, okay, this is really cool, because we're going to get multiple tech blogs, and hopefully they're going to start addressing all of these major technical issues, because of course that's what the blog is called, right? But this first one, well, it focuses on the install size of the game, which I don't know whether you guys are aware of, but it is frigging massive, like absolutely massive. So this is what they say. Hey Helldivers, this is the first of what we intend to become a regular series of posts where the engineering team talks about the technical health of the game and some of the technical challenges we're working through. Installation size. The installation size of Helldivers 2 on PC seems to be a hot topic right now, so let's start with that. The current install size on PC, get ready for this, is around 150 gig. That is roughly 3 times larger than the same game installed on consoles. Given the amount of content in the game, the size on consoles seems quite reasonable. So the obvious question is, why is it so large on PC? Data duplication. Much of the data in the PC version of Helldivers 2 is duplicated. The practice of duplicating data to reduce loading times is a game development technique that is primarily used to optimize games for older storage media, particularly mechanical hard drives and optical discs like DVDs. This practice is largely unnecessary for games deployed on solid-state drives, which is why the console versions of Helldivers 2 do not do this. Which obviously begs the question, Why isn't there an option to do an SSD install on PC or a hard drive install on PC? Why are we being forced to download tons of data? Because, of course, space on SSDs comes at a premium. You know, massive SSDs are very expensive. So 150 gig when the game could be 50 gig, that's a big difference. Like, what the hell? Obviously, on the consoles, like they say, they've all got solid-state drives. They've all got set hardware, so you can change the way you develop stuff because you know there isn't going to be somebody out there. Well, maybe there might be somebody out there with like a PS5 with a mechanical hard drive in, but that would be mental. I don't even know how they would have done that. Like, what? I bet there's an adapter or something you could do it with. Anyway, the problem with mechanical hard drives, the main issue with mechanical hard drives is seek time. Hard drives store data on a spinning platter, and a physical arm with a read head has to move across the platter to find and retrieve data. The time it takes for this arm to seek or move to the correct location is a significant performance bottleneck. Imagine a large game with various objects, trees, rocks, buildings, props. If the data for these objects is scattered all over the hard drive, the read head has to physically jump around the disk, which adds a lot of time to the loading process. The solution is duplication. To solve this problem, we deliberately duplicate certain data files, like a common tree texture or a sound effect, and place copies of them in physically close proximity to where they would need it to be in the game. For example, our build system will ensure that a copy of a tree texture is stored on the same part of the disk as the level geometry data. When the game loads the level, the read head can access the necessary information in a single continuous sweep without having to seek to a different location. This dramatically speeds up loading times. The modern era SSDs. The need for this technique has largely disappeared with the widespread adoption of SSDs. An SSD stores data on flash memory chips and has no moving parts. This means that seek time is virtually non-existent. An SSD can access any piece of data on the hard drive, or on the drive I should say, almost instantly, regardless of where it is physically stored. Increasingly, modern games are optimized for the sequential read speeds of SSDs and do not need to rely on the older method of duplicating assets. This is one of the key reasons why new games often explicitly require an SSD to meet minimum system requirements. Should Helldivers 2 continue to optimize for mechanical hard drives? This is the $6 million question. On the one hand, they are part of our minimum spec PC requirements. On the other hand, how many Helldivers 2 players are still using mechanical hard drives? The truth is that we don't currently know. Even the Steam user surveys are unable to give us data on mechanical hard drive use in the overall gamer population. Our best estimate put it around 12% of all PC gamers, but the data is very unreliable and relies on a lot of extrapolations. Until we can more accurately determine the number of mechanical hard drives that Helldivers 2 is installed on, it is difficult to know how many players will be impacted by reducing the amount of data duplication. Even if that number is small, keep in mind that the load time for each player dropping into a mission is determined by the slowest member of the squad. So, this is mental, isn't it? When you hear that, they don't know how many people are using hard drives. They've guessed it's at 12%, but that's unreliable data. So because of that, everybody has to download a massive, like, triple the size download for the game. It is bonkers. It's actually bonkers design. Anyway, they've got some solutions, or, well, potential solutions. So let's take a look at this. While we take steps to gain more clarity on the number of impacted players, we are actively exploring several different solutions in parallel, and will begin rolling them out in future updates as soon as they are ready. We cannot eliminate all duplication without making load times for mechanical hard drives 10 times slower, and we do not feel that this is acceptable. There are, however, some compromises we can make which will improve the installation size without blowing out the loading times too much. So in the short term, we've made some small gains in the next update by sweeping our systems for unused assets and obvious problems, but you will not likely notice them because the new stuff we've added will eat those gains. It's not a game changer, but at least the install size will stop growing. Medium term, beyond the next update, we're exploring taking some of the worst offenders in terms of duplication and deduplicating them by putting them in very common asset bundles, which have always been loaded under the set conditions, e.g. specific faction or biome. This does mean that loading times will get a bit worse for players using mechanical hard drives. It is unfortunate but unavoidable. In our early testing, it shows we should be able to keep this in the range of less than 30 seconds rather than several minutes. It can also increase the amount of RAM used by the game by loading common data that is always not needed. If we don't make worst case RAM usage worse, this should be noticeable, but it's a risk we are monitoring. By doing some careful measurements and analysis, we should be able to deliver acceptable trade-offs between RAM usage, loading times, and install size. Long term, looking further into the future, we plan to make improvements to the engine, which will ensure we'll never waste RAM loading common data that isn't needed, eliminating one of the drawbacks of the above technique. Beyond that, the remaining work is a bigger, riskier, more speculative project where we apply some kind of compression to the game data and potentially replicate some of the deduplication we do on consoles. We don't yet know if the impacts to load times could make these approaches infeasible. Optional 4K textures. Could we create a solution where the highest resolution textures are an optional download? Technically, yes, anything is possible. It is not something that is natively supported in our engine, though. It would be a substantial project to add this capability. Due to the scope and complexity of the changes, we would have to make. This is not our first preference, and honestly something we would only consider if we were unable to make a big enough impact without other solutions. Nothing comes for free. Time spent making these changes is time not spent optimizing the performance of the game or fixing stability issues. So, I mean, like that comment there, they do say that a lot. It's not supported natively by our engine. And like I said at the top of this video, their engine is not supported anyway. It was discontinued like literally 6, 7, 8 years ago. And well, Arrowhead are using it, and obviously they've been doing their own internal patches to the engine and taking it in different directions, designing new modules for it and all of that stuff. So what they've got is like a heavily modified version of it, I presume, and only they can use it. But it's creating a lot of issues because, well, Arrowhead isn't a game engine development company, right? So I'm guessing there's a lot of like optimization things that it's difficult for them to fix. But that being said, Unreal Engine is generally considered to be quite bad for performance, and that's made by a company that has literally got endless resources and should supposedly have some of the best engineers going, right? Anyway, this is the summary. So in summary, we're taking your concerns very seriously, but there are no easy solutions. Until we live in a world where we know that most of our PC players are using SSD drives, sacrificing some extra hard drive space is necessary to ensure we're able to load into missions in a reasonable amount of time. We've clearly reached the limits of how much duplicated data is acceptable, so smarter solutions and compromises are now required. We are very carefully weighing up the costs and trade-offs of the options we have, and will be sure to find a better balance between loading times and installation size soon. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into our tech. If you have any questions about this topic and suggestions for future projects, please reply to this thread. Thanks for reading. We're always eager to hear from great engineers and gameplay coders, and there's a link to Arrowhead's Jobs website. So what could be some potential solutions to this? I mean, like, potentially they could do things like on Steam, you can select a branch of a game. So I do this quite a lot because you'll get early access to games and they'll have like a special branch where you can go into the properties of the installed game and you can select the branch you want to play, you add a password, and it downloads a different version of the game. Now, this might be a sort of updated preview version, it could be a review version of a game. There's a load of different things this could be, or like an early access version of a game for maybe content creators or something like that. Why can't they do that for Helldivers too? Like, give you an SSD version, you could use the drop-down menu and then install it. I'm guessing one of the reasons why is it might mess up the way Steam works, or they might not be able to charge money for games that are in that kind of system. I don't know. But I want you guys in the comments below to let me know how you'd fix this. But one takeaway from all of this is Helldivers is one of the best games I've ever played. Right, maybe that's not the takeaway from this video, but it's my takeaway. The problem is it is getting crushed over the weight of its own success. And we know the studio head has spoken about the technical debt the game is starting to impose on the studio as a whole, and they do need to address it. So I think it's really good that they are addressing this out in the open. They're telling us what they're doing, and it makes me, as a player of the game, think, yeah, they are respecting our time. Yeah, we want new content. Yeah, I understand they want to keep making new content because ultimately that means more players, it means more revenue. They sit back and spend loads of time making the game super optimized. It's not really going to increase the player base, but it's something that needs to be done because in the future it catches up with you. And like right now, we've got a problem with the install size of the game. It's caught up with them and they're panicking and rushing around and trying to fix this issue. All right, guys, I've been Stylosa. I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, like I said, Helldivers is a hell of a game. I'm really enjoying playing it. And yeah, just let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Remember, you can follow me on everything, which is @Stylosa, and I'll catch you lovely lot on the next video. See you soon.